Hello everyone, in this video we will set up the automations for events like webinars or subscription reminders that will be so helpful for you. Now let's say your lead purchases a webinar through an order form, then you can trigger a workflow in which you can send confirmation email or reminders which will be then sent automatically without manual effort of sending email to every single lead. Now if we go to the sites, then if we move to funnels, then you can see this funnel that I created for a webinar. And if we click on this funnel, then there is a page where I added an order form for the webinar purchase. Now let's say this is the webinar form that people need to fill in and then purchase our webinar with the amount that you will set up in your product. And once they submit this form, we want to send them a confirmation email, and then we want to add them to a pipeline, and then we want to send them a reminder email for the webinar so that they won't miss the webinar. So to do that, we need to go back and create a workflow. But before that, let me show you the pipeline where we will add our lead or the person who will register for our webinar. So if we go to opportunities, then here you can see a webinar pipeline that I created for our webinar automation. And these are the stages of the pipeline that is interested, registered and confirmed. And what we're going to do is when someone will submit the form, we will add them to registered stage of the pipeline because they have now registered for our webinar, which will help us to find out the people who have purchased or registered for our webinar. And to do that, we have to create a workflow. So we will go to automations and here click on create workflow button, and we will create the workflow from scratch. Here we can name this workflow, which can be webinar automation. Now this is the order form for which we want the automation, right? So first of all, we will set up the trigger for this order form. So we will add a trigger, and the trigger will be order form submission. And in filters, we can select in funnel, and then we will select the funnel where we have added our order form, and that is webinar funnel. And then select page as webinar booking, and then we will select the product as webinar payment. So we have selected the funnel and the funnel page where we added our webinar payment form. Then we added the product which we created to receive the payments for the webinar. Now once it's done, click on Save Trigger button. So we have added the trigger, and now whenever someone will submit this form, this workflow will be executed. Now let's say someone have booked the webinar. In that case, what I want to do is to add this to our pipeline. For this, we will add an action, and the action will be create or update opportunity. Then we will select the pipeline as webinar pipeline. Then we will select our pipeline stage that is registered, and opportunity name will be the contact name because I want to display the name of the person who has booked the webinar in our pipeline. So that's why I will add the contact name here. And finally, we will save this action. And now whenever someone will submit the webinar form, he will be added to the pipeline, which we added in our first action. Next, we want to send our lead a confirmation message for the registration of webinar. So we will add an action, and the action will be send email. Now in from name, you can type in your name, and in email, you will type in the email from which you want to send this confirmation email. Next, in subject, we can type in webinar registration is confirmed. And in message, you can type in, hi, you have successfully registered for the webinar. And you can add more details of the webinar, like you can add date, you can add time. And once it's done, simply click on Save button. So now whenever someone will submit the form, he will be added in a pipeline and he will receive a confirmation message that we just added in this action. Next, I want to remind them a day before the webinar. For that, we need to send them a reminder email, right? But before that, we will add an action that will be set event start date. Now let's say this webinar is going to happen on 25th November at 12:30 p.m. So here we will set the date and time for the webinar. And we will save this section. So now we have set up the date and time at which the webinar will happen. So we will add another action that will be wait. And we can name this action wait 1 day before the webinar. And then we will wait for event appointment time. Next we will select before 1 day and then we will save this action. Now whatever action we will add, it will be executed 1 day before the webinar because we have selected date and time for the webinar and we have added the wait action that was 1 day before the webinar here. Now what I'm gonna do is to send a reminder email. For that we will add an action that will be send email, and here we will add the name and email from which you want to send the email. Next in subject you can type in webinar reminder, and in message we can type in whatever message you want. That can be hi, just a friendly reminder that webinar is in 24 hours. And you can add whatever you want here. You can add more details about the webinar if you want, and once it's done, simply save this section. So here we have set an action to send the reminder email 1 day before the webinar. Now you can also send internal notification, you can add more actions and customize this workflow if you want. So now you know how to set up the automations for webinar, but if you face any trouble in this process, you can ask me in comment section. For now, thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.